Mike. Boy, am I glad I didn't have to play the drums. Whew. That's duty above and beyond the call, Mike. Great to be here with you to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart, low code. I'm going to talk about low code as a set of products, like we include Appian in the low code market. It's also a market. It's also a set of behaviors and changes that we're seeing in the way that organizations approach application development and delivery. In effect, low code is intersecting, the low code product approach is intersecting with a lot of changes in the way that we organize ourselves and the way we even think about the value of applications and going forward with digital. So, without further ado, let's start with why. Why are we even considering low code as an alternative approach to delivering applications? Why not just do things in Java, .NET, COBOL, whatever that things we've used in the past? The answer is digital transformation. We are, as a global economy, transforming our businesses from physical and analog forms to bits. And I like to go back to the beginning, for me the beginning anyway, it was Nicholas Negroponte's book called Being Digital. If you haven't read it, it's a historical document at this rate, but it's really, really helpful. Came out about the time of Napster, when the music business started to really get digitized and really change. We are now doing what Negroponte wrote about, what he documented writ large in our businesses. I use this diagram to talk about this, where this is an example of a product company that would develop products and then go to market through retailers. And they've got all these assets and processes that they use to run their business. By converting those assets and properties to a digital form, and maybe it's a shadow, a digital shadow or a doppelganger for employees, but by creating these digital, materializing these processes and assets in bits, as digital assets, they can then change. They can transform them really quickly. They can transform their formats really, really quickly. They can move them in ways that you can't if you're just in a physical form. And so, use some of the examples here, like inventory, sourcing, digital experiences, all those mobile apps that we're now addicted to, and all the tools that we use to interact with businesses. All of these processes and assets, because they are digital, become so much more readily changeable. We can innovate much quicker. We can respond to changes much quicker, opportunities and threats. To deliver on this promise, to deliver on this change, we need to develop a heck of a lot of software and continually. So the cycles are just completely unlike anything we've ever seen before. So there are lots of examples that we've seen in our research of organizations that are going after this. This is actually an Appian customer I spoke to. Isn't here at the conference. It's a bank down in Australia, which I think typifies many of the both the benefits and the changes, these behavioral changes that I'm talking about with low code. So Mike works in a digital group, and they focus on customer experience and customer service. Actually, you can see he's focused specifically on customer service within the overall customer experience. And when they brought in Appian, they also introduced some new ways of working, because customer experience, customer service, pursuing opportunities and innovation is inherently it's very hard to put your finger on what requirements are. You're responding in real time to opportunities and threats. It's very squishy. So you need a tool set that allows you to run experiments. And I mean, run experiments in a day or maybe 3 days to do a prototype of an idea and try it out to determine if you really got something there. Plus, the people who do the work are business people first and technologists second. They're really smart about the data that the business, that the customer experience requires. They're really smart about the processes, and they also use technology to deliver their value, but they don't see themselves as technologists. They see themselves as business problem solvers and innovators, and in his case, change agents. You can see specifically, they put aside the IT processes that the back office has used for decades, because they needed to work differently. They needed to really execute very, very quickly on ideas. And so this is the picture essentially of these new folks that are, some of them come out of technology backgrounds, many of them come out of business backgrounds, and because they're working on a platform that allows them to define processes, mobile apps, forms, the data that they're using, analytics, et cetera, define those, deploy them, and run them on the platform without having to understand the infrastructure underneath, and then evolve and manage those applications very, very quickly, puts these business technology people, these experts, in a position to really respond to the change, to start to digitize the business. Despite the fact that there's a lot of questions, they're in a position now to start to answer those questions and work their way towards digitization. So it's a whole movement here as well as a market. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about low-code development platforms. We actually defined this at Forrester about 2 years ago, maybe even longer at this point. And we're looking to define a set of products, but also a set of buying behaviors that we were observing in the market. One of the things that I think we have to be careful about these days is that a lot of people are throwing the term low code around. And they essentially mean some version of, well, it's easier to develop than coding. And there's more to it than that. There's actually two aspects of the definition. One is, yeah, we're using modeling and visual development, WYSIWYG, screen creation and so forth, to create applications with a minimum of hand coding. Maybe no coding if that's possible. Sometimes you've got to do some coding, but you're trying to really drive down the amount of coding that you have to do to deliver the application. But then the second piece of this is just as important, because it plays to, think about Bendigo Bank and how they were trying to run experiments and get projects done really, really quickly and test ideas. Well, that means that the product has to be available to them in that format. They can't have to pay, a multi-million-dollar contract and spend a year to implement the product before they actually start to work with it. No, they want to get started right away, usually by hitting a cloud service. So there's really no setup required. A minimum of training, maybe no training, often no training to get started. Start to figure out, do I have good ideas, and can this approach really provide value? As you build up the value, then you pay. It's like the cloud model really writ large, where you pay for value, you pay as you go. So it's those two elements that we really believe define this market. And low code speeds application delivery and delivery of changes in 5 major ways. So first, I'll show you some stats in a minute. Visual coding, the visual tooling is a lot faster than your traditional coding. And I'll show you some stats in a moment where we've been able to compare 4 different projects and really demonstrate how dramatic this can be. Secondly is the immediate low-cost on-ramp. One of the first cases we came across was a very, very older than the United States, insurance company in Europe. Completely hidebound, completely based on the mainframe, really getting hammered by their competitors. And so they stood up an innovation department, a VP, a couple of guys, that was it. Find ways to innovate, break us out of this logjam. So one of the first things that they did was pick the low-code platform that was available as a cloud service, and they picked a project off the backlog, which was an agency portal. Now, you didn't have an agency portal? I mean, every insurance company has an agency portal. They didn't have one. The reason was because it looked really hard, and so it never got off the backlog. The IT was always like, oh, it's too much, we've got other priorities, we're not going to do it. These guys gave themselves 5 days, no training, signed up for the cloud service, 5 days to prove a minimum viable product and determine if they were on the right track and test it with some of their customers, and then determine what were the next steps to go ahead. That's what we're looking for here. That's the kind of easy access, speed, and low cost access that we're really looking for here. Another thing is that they did, and that people are looking for with low code, is test and learn to discover your requirements. Not write a long requirements document, and we always tell little white lies to ourselves that that's really true, that those requirements are really what we need. They almost never are. Rather than do it that way, document requirements, load it all up, start with one idea and prove out that idea in a working prototype and carry that idea then forward. Test the idea with live customers or with partners or with internal people. Discover your way to their requirements. Business people don't always know what they want until they see it. So low code gives us a really good way, really handy way to get to the real requirements, therefore eliminating all that rework and gnashing of teeth and other activity that goes on when we don't hit the requirements. Mobile apps, big demand for mobile apps. Low code has been a really important way to rise to that challenge. There's an awful lot of folks that are generating their mobile apps out of their web app designs and getting to mobile apps really, really quickly. And then the last one is about labor. We talk. One of the topics that I cover is application development, kind of writ large. So I think a lot about developers, and we talk with clients day in and day out about how hard it is to find the developers that they need. And this is true even here in California, in the Bay Area, which is like a tech hub. If you're a mid-sized business or even a large enterprise here, you have to compete with Google for talent. It's hard to get the development talent you need. Well, low code is a way to make all kinds of developers. I don't want to say mediocre. I don't want to say run-of-the-mill, but you know what I mean. All kinds of developers really much more effective. They don't have to be full-stack developers, the mythical full-stack developer, where they're really good at server side and the user interface. You know any developers that are good at both of those things? I mean, they're like unicorns. So empowering developers that you can find and afford for the applications that you need is a really big deal and a big benefit of the whole low-code movement. So here are the 4 projects I want to highlight for you that we were able to document a coding version of this product, either through the project actually having been done using a coding approach and then redone using low code. That's the first one on the list, which by the way is an Appian example. Or there was a bid that was brought into that was solicited, and the bid was for a coding approach, and we can compare it. The British insurance provider was the one I mentioned. So unknown for coding because it never got off the backlog, and 10 days to get a minimum viable product. They gave themselves 5, gave themselves another 5 with the testing. But you can see that the deltas here are really dramatic. And the other thing is, these are not toys. These are not departmental apps. These are serious apps. These are enterprise apps. So there's not a limit here to what you can do, what kinds of applications you can do. Okay, because of the audience, I thought it was important to put this slide up. Low code is not just another fancy term for BPM because we're all getting tired of the word BPM. There are differences here. There are differences. The main difference is in scope. BPM was all about process. It was about process operationalizing processes. It was about process description, process excellence, process measurement. Low code is about apps. Process is one of the abstractions or one of the tools that you'll use to build apps. But you also have user interface. You have integration. You've got data management. You've got files and content. You've got new technologies coming along. Also, there's a big contrast in the business models between the traditional BPM vendors, which tended to go for the traditional enterprise selling, and the low-code business model. There's some movement now of the BPM community over to the low-code model, which is welcome. But it's not the same thing. It's process. Think of it as BPM with a whole lot more in the box. I mean, you saw the slide earlier this morning with all the technologies that Appian is including. That's how to think about this. Now, let me shift gears here because just adopting a low-code product or a low-code environment does not give you all these wonderful benefits. You actually have to have a strategy, and you actually have to work at it. And really, the change management of your people and your processes, educating your bosses, including the CFO, that's the hard work. That's really the hard part. So I'm going to just walk through. We spent a lot of time on strategy. We spent a lot of time on implementation and adoption. Let me just walk through some of the core ideas here. First, your people. Who is going to do the work on the low-code platform? That's a really important question. I see a lot of the work that's being done on low-code platforms being done by folks who are in IT organizations. Even that organization at Bendigo, it is an IT organization. It's not the traditional IT, but they're chartered to deliver applications, and they have professional developers that are really smart about the business, but they are pros. That's the rapid developer is the persona that describes those people. They see themselves as problem solvers. They love low code because it eliminates all the Java gorp that they had to do just to stand up servers or just to configure their jar files, and all that stuff goes away. I can now focus on the business problem. And some of them are actually former coders, and they see this as a better way for them to do their work. The other three roles here are oftentimes called citizen developer. I heard that word used a couple times. I've heard that word used a couple times today. We got to be careful here because this is a role that actually I find is really vastly misunderstood. So it's actually, the citizen developer is actually three different persona. One is the power user. We all know that role really well. The office hero who helps you fix your spreadsheet macros or sets up a little website for you or what have you. They've been there forever. They'll continue to be there. Moving them onto a low-code platform adds management visibility to their work. It's a good thing. The apps they build aren't running on a discarded laptop sitting under their desk. They could kick the power cord out and the app goes away. We have no idea. This is rogue IT, right? By putting these folks on a low-code platform, we now can manage their work. We can see it. We can give them guidance. We can give them guardrails. And we can really leverage their work. Citizen developer, I sometimes call these guys business developers. These are the business people who build apps in their spare time because they have to. The example I came across recently was a guy who worked for a spin out from Sears Holdings, spun the business out. He's in the fraud department, no apps. They got spun out. They're a brand new company. So he would turn up at his local Starbucks when it opened up in the morning, 5:30, 6 in the morning, and he would build his department's apps on a low-code platform, cloud platform, and then he would go to work, catching crooks, do his day job. There's a lot of these people out there, and if we can leverage them, they know their businesses so well. Again, if we can get them onto a low-code platform, rogue IT goes away. Plus, we can start to see what they're doing, maybe help them advance it. Maybe they come up with a great idea that actually applies to the whole enterprise, and we can basically identify it and go. And then the third one is business developers. These are actual business people that become developers, but they report to business units. And again, there's a ton of these folks. They essentially do software full-time, unlike the citizen developer who does it part-time. So understanding these roles, I think, is really important to put together a strategy, because we have to understand who these people are and what they're capable of, and how we should organize their work. If we get our act together with a low-code platform and begin to address the talent that we have in-house to create applications, we can actually expand our labor force that's working on software. I mean, nobody's got enough developers. The backlogs continue to grow. You know, going to a low-code approach can help bring in the rapid developer role. But if we can also empower these citizen developer roles, they can also contribute. Just think of all those long tail applications, those administrative apps that never get done because app dev never has time for them. We can expand the labor force that's working on the software that we need, and because it's on a low-code platform that is managed, it's not rogue IT. We can see it, understand it, shape it, guide it. I think this is extremely powerful, and you know, I think we're going to see a lot more of this going forward. Now, one thing that the next thing you'll hit, you start to think about your people. Next thing you'll hit is we need to govern this. We need to govern this set of activities. A lot of folks, particularly in the early days, would bring in a low-code platform and open the doors. Anybody could do anything. One of those companies I ran across ended up with 16,000 apps on a version of the platform that was no longer supported. 16,000. So I know we all hate the word governance, particularly here in the Bay Area, it seems. But we need governance. We just need governance with a lighter touch. We need governance that's more balanced, that encourages creativity. So there are these 5 dimensions. We already talked about who, how are the apps built? Are we going to build them on low code? Are we going to use process, et cetera? Which of the apps do we build? Which of our portfolio are we going to tackle with low code? We got lots of needs. Where are the apps built? Which parts of the company? Are they going to be buried in the departments? Or are they going to be in a separate group? And then when? What's the priority that we're going to assign to activities on the low-code environment? And you think of these dimensions as tuning knobs. You can be more permissive or less permissive. A lot of people start with being a little more cautious, and as the organization gets smarter, they dial it up to be more permissive and allow for more creativity. This is an example of a delivery process I observed in the research I did on governance. The thing to take away from this delivery process is it is a set of low-code developers, a set of business developers that are working in concert with a central IT group. The IT group becomes a service provider to those folks that are really devoted to the business. This is a really important idea for all of you in central IT organizations. You've got to become a service provider in some fashion in this new world. And there are lots of examples out there, fortunately, that we can learn from. A couple last thoughts. When you are going to build, you inevitably will build applications of large scale, as well as smaller applications, maybe starting with the smaller ones. And you got to plan for scale. Again, it's not adopting any product is going to guarantee that you're going to be able to scale. These are the dimensions to look for when you evaluate a vendor. Architecture, expressiveness of the tooling, and so forth. Pricing is important because you want to make sure that your costs behave in a way that aligns with the value you're getting as you scale up. And then lastly, don't settle for today's technology. We saw this morning a roadmap that includes AI. We see a lot of activity these days with sensor data, commonly known as IoT. There's so much technology innovation that's going on. The low-code vendors need to embrace this. They need to allow you to plug into those innovations as extensions of the investments that you make today in mobile or portals or whatever it happens to be. So look for vendors that are really committed and have a track record to embracing new technologies and making them available through their platforms. So recommendations, I'm sold on low code. I think everyone needs to adopt this set of platforms and bring it in. I just don't think we can code our way out of the situation we're in. But you need a strategy. Decide who does the work, design your delivery processes, look for vendors that are going to give you that innovation, and then carefully manage your portfolio so you get the value that you're really looking for and your spend is aligned. So with that, I'll thank you and turn the stage over to our next presenter.